Well, ladies, yeah. Okay, good evening. Thank you for joining me for the executive budget proposal for fiscal year 2026. After successfully working together with City Council to restore Warren's budget process last year, I'd like to thank City Council for the fiscal year 2025 budget that they adopted. Department heads have been diligently providing the outstanding services community members expect of us as responsible stewards of taxpayer dollars. I'd also like to acknowledge Councilwoman Melody McGee for joining us, State Representative Ron Robinson, thank you for joining us. I appreciate that. These are partners that we work with across levels of government. And we are more effective working together to address community needs. Tonight's budget proposal starts a conversation, but more importantly, as an exercise in transparency and accountability, as well as participatory governance by community members. Once community leaders are elected, civic engagement is how you can ensure we address our community's needs. I've spent the past year working with the city, improving City Hall culture with positive growth mindset, and my team will share that we intentionally start with celebrations. I want to start by celebrating all the relationships we are growing in Warren by working together. We are working together across levels of government, working together with our state legislative delegation last year. Warren was able to return more than $1 million in local tax dollars from the state budget to fund renovations and upgrades to Warren parks and accessibility improvements. Thank you to State Senators Paul Bueno and Stephanie Chang, as well as State Representatives Donovan McKinney, Nate Shannon, and Mai Zong for fighting for our community's priorities in Lansing. We have a couple new faces in Ron Robinson and Mike McFall, and I very much look forward to working with them on our priorities going forward. Working together with Macomb County and the Michigan Department of Natural Resources, Warren secured $190,000 in grant funding that will be used for citywide tree inventory study, as well as funding to continue increasing our tree canopy by planting trees in parks and implementing our green spaces plan. Increasing tree canopy was one of the community priorities that was established during last year's listening tour for environmental sustainability. And additionally, Warren benefited from a public-private partnership with Second Nature Brands, tree planting initiative, not once, but twice. They purchased trees and provided volunteers to work alongside city employees in planting trees along the Hayes Boulevard between 11.5 and 12 Mile, as well as in Trombley Park. These are just a few highlights to celebrate how Warren is working together to make taxpayers' dollars go farther. I'd like to take a minute because I don't expect that everyone has a copy of the city charter just sitting on their bedside table. And so I want to take a walk through to familiarize our community with the budget process. But I would like to start by highlighting and celebrating Budget Director Chris Battle and City Controller Rick Fox for all the hard work that it takes to make this process possible. So thank you. Going into 2024, we can all agree that Warren's elected leadership inherited a bit of a dysfunctional budget process, and together we worked really hard to rebuild trust, mutual respect, and successfully restore this process. Warren City Charter lays out a collaborative budget process for city governance that ensures all voices contribute to preparing the next fiscal year's budget proposal. No later than the first Monday in February of each year, Each officer, department, board, and commission shall submit to the controller an itemized estimate of the expected income and expenditures during the next fiscal year for the department or activities under its control. In all actuality, this process starts back in December, well before we have revenue estimates, well before we have even spent down the previous year's budget. The controller shall compile and submit to the mayor from all those submissions, no later than the second Monday in March of each year, a budget form setting forth in simple columns budget requests of each officer and department of the city. And my staff suggested that we show you what one of these pages look like if you haven't had the opportunity to look at it. It's a great guideline because, first of all, we can reflect back on what fiscal year 24 resulted in. It's a good guidance on where we were in the recent past. We also are monitoring how expenditures for the current fiscal year are going, and about halfway through, that gives us a good idea of how well we did and if we need to adjust those appropriations before the end of the year so we maintain our balanced budget. But going into it, we have first, for 2026, department requests, and then we whittle those away and figure out what are the proposals that I will recommend to City Council. The mayor reviews such budget forms and budget requests, and in a column parallel to and adjacent to that containing such budget requests enters the budgetary recommendations for each item requested, with such additions and deletions therefrom shall deem appropriate. And no later than the second Monday in April, which brings us here, April 14th of each year, shall the mayor submit to the council a recommended budget for the next fiscal year, which is within the tax limit and other revenue sources of the city. At which point, City Council has the opportunity to engage with department heads, the mayor's office, in their budget review process before they submit and adopt the budget in May. It is a process. This process begins before the City of Warren has predicted revenue for next fiscal year. Departments look at their expenditures. This involves reflecting on trends in work, projects, and demands. This includes an inventory of equipment, vehicles, and facilities. This takes into consideration the needs and the wants, as well as the wishes. And department expenditures requested totaled roughly $177.7 million. Now remember, there are pieces that departments don't control, like negotiated salaries and benefits. Departments are always looking for efficiencies, including reorganizations, distribution of work, and technology. Departments consider alternative funding sources like grant dollars and working with other levels of government. And then my administration sits down with the city controller, city budget director, and each department to whittle down requests that balance with our fund revenue. And this year, we're looking at close to $160 million. It needs to be a fiscally responsible funding recommendation in alignment with those projected revenues. And note that the difference is nearly $18 million. And so I realize at the end of the process, my recommendations and cuts may look different than how City Council chooses to balance the budget they adopt in May. The budget my administration has proposed is fiscally responsible, and we continue to uphold the expectation of being good stewards of your tax dollars. And by the end of this presentation, I hope you'll agree. Some highlights. My administration is committed to investing in capital to maintain Warren's aging infrastructure in order to ensure that residents continue to receive the dependable, high-quality services Warren residents expect. It's no secret that we are a city that is nearly 70 years old, a village that is almost 100, and settlement beyond that. So our infrastructure we are building on needs much TLC and maintenance and upgrades as we go. We continue to work hard this year to provide council with a fiscally responsible, balanced budget proposal with minimal use of fund balance and without coming to residents to ask for increases in funding of general fund services. Warren respects our hardworking employees by continuing to provide competitive wages and benefits. These practices ensure well-qualified, well-respected workforce. Warren continues to seek grant dollars from federal, state, county, and private sources to fund projects, equipment, resources, and facilities in order to continue to provide improvements and upgrades without having to come to residents for additional tax revenue. So let's talk about the numbers, the big numbers. Warren's totaled city budget and funding for fiscal year 2026 is projected to be roughly $430 million. While Warren is the third largest city in Michigan, we still maintain a small town familiarity. We have no illusions that Warren plays a significant economic role in Macomb County, in the state of Michigan, as well as nationally. Above and beyond property taxes, Warren depends on revenues from Act 51 road fund millages, our millages for local services, drug forfeiture funds, and tax increment financing authority. These are just some of the special revenue that feeds our budget. Our enterprise funds include water and sewer, as well as senior housing at Joseph Coach and Stillwell Manor. And part of the funding to pay our debt service comes from our Downtown Development Authority, Michigan Transportation, and capital improvements. But let's zoom in. The talk is often about general funds. The other pieces of the pie actually have strings tied that help direct and guide where those dollars go. But general fund is where we have some latitude. City property taxes and revenue sharing by the state of Michigan make up approximately 75% of our revenues. And charges for services and license, as well as permit fees, make up another 7% of our general fund revenue. This makes a lot of sense because local government's function is to provide those public services to residents as a common good. Waste pickup, clean drinking water, wastewater disposal, building safety, and so much more. I consider local government a public service like a Costco membership. If each household had to contract for each of these services, if they had to pave every mile they drove to work, that would just not be affordable. But by combining our dollars, they go farther. Generally speaking, costs go down based on size and scale. These are efficiencies that the residents of Warren benefit from. Let's talk about a big piece of this pie called state revenue sharing. Well, the state of Michigan collects city property taxes. There isn't a statutory requirement for how much of our community's property tax dollars are returned for local governments at the discretion of state legislature. This line graph shows that when the economy struggles, the state of Michigan holds on to more of our local tax dollars in order to balance the state budget and services. When this happens, it does create challenges for local governments to scramble and balance our budgets. And I am committed to advocating along with our state legislative delegation to ensure that state budgets continue the practice of returning state revenue sharing dollars to communities that paid them in order to help meet local needs. And one example of the services for fees revenue is our building inspection fees. And we've seen considerable growth coming out of COVID recovery and a lot of local investment, which is definitely a good indicator of our ecosystem. once those funds have been determined, we get to dig into what are the expenditures. Everyone gets a tax bill, but we don't always get a receipt for services. And it's important to know what you are getting in return for the dollars that you pay. And so we're very familiar with a household budget. We budget for mortgages and rent payments. We plan for cars and gas. We plan for food and cell phones. So what is it you're getting when you pay a tax bill here in Warren? Based on an average tax bill here in the city of Warren, broke down over a year, an average citizen is paying about $50 per police. And you might say, but I haven't called and I haven't had to call on our police services. You know what that means? That means they're doing a good job. That means that they are a deterrent to crime. That means that they are stopping and responding to crime, and they're making sure that it is not an issue in our community. What about fire? Roughly $30 a month goes towards fire. And again, we don't want to be calling EMS. We don't want to have fire respond to a structure fire. But it's good to know they're there when we need them with state-of-the-art equipment, with excellent response time, and know that when we need to call on them, they will be there for us. When you look at refuse collection in our sanitation departments at $12 a month, over 4 weeks, that's about a little more than $3 a week to have curbside collection of compost, recycling, and waste. But it doesn't stop there. We have annual hazardous waste collections, and we have year-round recycling collection that you can go to and make sure that batteries and electronics and other items you don't want to end up in your landfill end up somewhere that can be reused. Let's take a look. We fund our courts. For less than $10 a month, you're making sure that you have roads that are safe to get you to work and to recreation, and you couldn't do that on your own. In addition, for less than $6 a month, you have an incredible array of library services, whether they're online, audible books, language training, in-person book borrowing. We have access to telescopes from NASA and a lot of programming to choose from. So if you think you can be getting better for your $6 a month, I encourage you to come to a library near you and check out what they have to offer. Parks and Recreation coming in at just under $5 a month ensures that we have safe, beautiful parks in pretty much every neighborhood in the city, as well as keeping up our recreation centers and robust programming. So let's break down our general fund expenditures. What else does that $160 million look like? Something that you might remark at is how much we invest in our police and fire. Warren is invested in a safer city. With 40% of our tax general fund dollars going to police and 22% going to fire, 62% of general funds dollars are invested in public safety. Warren's spending on public safety is in alignment with our commitment to keep Warren a safe place to live, and was a clear message of a priority in our community as we came together for public safety listening tour as community members shared their concerns and expectations for our public safety. In addition to hiring 34 police officers since I've taken office, over and above the personnel costs, we are investing nearly $4 million in department requests, including nearly $2 million in Tyler Technologies software platform that will keep us state of the art, $280,000 towards dispatch equipment and software, $612,000 in vehicles and upfittings, not to mention vehicle safety technology and specialized equipment for our specialized departments that continue to make Warren a destination department. And we can't forget about how much and how quickly we go through computers, printers, tech, and hardware. As for fire, we are fully staffed, and that was through a strategic effort of growing our own. And it has really paid off, and other communities have taken note to how Warren upped their staffing levels. In addition to our personnel and fire, we are investing $1.5 million in department requests, including gear that is essential for the safety and well-being of our firefighter paramedics, including turnout coats, bunker pants, hoods, gloves, and boots. $200,000 in renovations for our administration and apparatus garages so that we can use them year-round. Equipment for our specialized training, including SRT, hazmat, and tech rescue, as well as EMS equipment to outfit our 7 new EMS squads that have arrived, including nearly $500,000 for defibrillators that helps keep our community heart healthy and give everyone who is in crisis their best chance, and $285,000 towards power load cots, which makes sure that it's a smooth ride for anyone we need to transport, as well as make it for ease of use for our paramedics. And computers and technology. It helps to frame out what these expenses look like, because in August on the ballot, we will be coming to you as our community members, asking you to support the renewal of Warren's police and fire public safety millage. In order to maintain these high standards for public services, we need your continued support. Not more, just keep. When you take a look at our general fund, we'll break it down in another way of how to look at these expenditures, not by department, but where these dollars are going. And what you will observe is over 40% goes toward wages, and another 36.5% towards fringe benefits. What does that show you? That shows you that Warren is people-powered, that our public safety personnel make up 54% of our employees, that are police officers, firefighters, paramedics, dispatch, and animal control. Anyone who's serving in those departments, would you please stand? We would like to thank you for what you do for our community. Thank you. 20% of our city employees are general government employees. They serve in the offices of elected officials. Their hardworking staff includes the mayors, city clerk, city treasurer, city council, 37th District Court judges and staff, as well as making those departments run. If you serve our community in those capacities, would you please stand to be recognized? Oh, I know you're in here. Thank you. %16% of Warren workers are employed by our special revenue departments. Those include our library, sanitation, rental, parks and recreation, communications, community and economic development. Anyone who's funded by those dedicated funds, whether millages or something else, anyone who serves in that capacity, would you please stand? Thank you for your hard work. And last but definitely not least is our public service. That employs 9% of our city employees, including engineering, building, Department of Public Works, building maintenance, and planning, helping to make our city run efficiently. Please stand to be recognized. Thank you. 100% of city employees are working every day to make Warren a better place to live, work, play, and grow. I want to take a look at personnel in just a little different way. This line graph breaks down our employees over the last roughly 20 years. And as you see, we employ over 800 full-time employees who are part of our union workforce, and then roughly another 500 to 600 seasonal and temp employees. It's a lot of people making a lot of things happen in our city. Local government's function is to provide services to residents. That depends on staffing. And what you'll notice is that when economic times are hard and revenue funding is down, that one of the places that we lose is personnel. But I also want to show you that since the economic recovery, we are back to where we need to be. And in public safety, we're up 90 people. So it's important to think about where your tax dollars are going. So this is my PSA. Civil service is a great career pathways for many people. There are many paths that start out with a high school diploma, an associate's degree, certifications or licensure, as well as opportunities for degreed professionals. These are careers that offer rewarding and lifelong opportunities, as well as opportunities for development, growth, and advancement. So how does Warren attract a talented workforce? How do we keep talent for a career? Tight labor markets leave cities competing for workforce talent have definitely shown a light on the need for educating Warren's young people about careers in civil service, as well as opportunities to showcase careers in Warren through outreach and recruiting. Our full-time employees comprise membership of 8 unions working for Warren. If civil service workers are only comparing salaries and wages between cities, they're comparing apples to oranges. Warren offers robust fringe benefits that affords Warren workforce a great quality of life. These fringe benefits include outstanding health insurance, including dental and vision, retirement funding, holiday pay, longevity and sick time, uniform clothing allowances, education reimbursements, comp time, certification incentives. And so it's very important that we join forces in this opportunity to showcase what a career in Warren has to offer through Bring Your Child to Work days, serving as a guest speaker at career events, and inviting people to job shadow and visit what it means to work in Warren. Our commitment to city workers does not end at retirement. Often public sector workers forego larger wages and salaries for increases in benefits and retirement compensation. Warren has legacy costs of defined contribution pensions. Warren stands by our employees and our collective bargaining agreement contracts. We are committed to protecting and funding pensions of city retirees, including police and fire retirees. State law requires municipalities to maintain at least a 60% funding level. As of fiscal year end, June 30th, 2024, and pension year end, December 31st, 2023, Warren's general employees pension is at 75.6%, which shows 7% growth. And police and fire pension is at 63.1% with a bit more than 1% growth. Thanks to savvy investing, well-performing investments, I'd like to give a shout out to City Treasurer Lori Barnwell and oversight boards for your diligence in ensuring we continue to do right by the hardworking civil servants that spend their careers serving our community. Let's talk government efficiency. Someone would argue that this is an oxymoron, but how does Warren get more for our money? Well, my first year as mayor was really spent in a deep dive department by department, looking at functions, organization, and listening to suggestions of workers on how services could be provided with greater efficiencies. And when Public Service Director David Mazzarelli brought me a proposal that just made sense, working with rental and property maintenance departments, he recognized the function of off cycles. During nice weather months, our focus of our manpower is largely on blight. That means blight for homeowners, but it's also blight for rental properties. During colder weather, the man-hours emphasis is on rental inspection for property licensure. And by moving from seasonal employees to certified full-time year-round rental inspectors, the city has greater flexibility and adaptability between departments. And that's just one way Warren residents are getting more for our money. Opioid settlement funds. Warren has $2,409,481 available. We have not spent it down. And while we focused in my first year on some collaborative efforts, moving our contribution of ARPA dollars towards our commitments, collaborations between communities, I'm very excited to start digging into opioid settlement funds because opioids and substance use dependency is still an issue. But I've spent the last year reading and doing some homework. And I'd like to take a page out of Florida's playbook. You see, when Florida received their settlement and tobacco dollars, they saw an opportunity. Instead of spending it down, they endowed it. That means they invested it, and they only spent the interest that had accrued. That meant that instead of spending it and being left with nothing to continue to support these programs once it was gone, we could instead lead on this because we have a nice little nest egg and endow them so that they will continue working for the community of Warren as long as we allow them to grow and we can use the interest. We've collaborated on so many issues, and I think this is an opportunity, this is a proposal I'm anxious to bring and share. Now we are prepared to move forward with the process of committing our funds. Let's do it in a smarter way that makes it work for Warren. Warren's invested in revitalizing parks and recreation. Well, we made some excellent headway in completing the ramps and concrete work, which was award-winning, so congratulations. We also have some work to finish that. That includes paving, parking, and pathways, and making sure that we restore the landscaping and make sure that it's inviting for all the people who cannot wait to get in and do some skateboarding. And we will be finishing up our Wiegand Parks splash pad, which our community has been very much looking forward to and will enjoy in the warm weather months, and including adding additional picnic tables, park benches that will make this a family-friendly and inviting space to enjoy. In addition to those fun investments, we also have much-needed infrastructure improvements here at the community center and buildings throughout our city. Hearing the request to restore community center hours to pre-COVID levels, our Parks and Recreation staff has worked hard to increase the number of lifeguards and staffing in order to extend public swim to Sundays. And in addition, we have pushed out our Warren Today, which was #1 in our Parks and Rec listening tour interest. We have those published and mailed to households, and library as well as Parks and Recreation programming has seen increased participation by increased awareness. Let's take a look at the infrastructure and investment in roads and pipes and everything in between. But let's not forget tech infrastructure. It's something that's often overlooked and often viewed as free, but it is advancing rapidly, and making sure that we are keeping up is important. We have been working vigorously to build on what was already here as tech infrastructure, including a secure online hiring portal, which is in the works, and we're anxious to get it online and out to the public. It will make applications for key positions in our community more accessible. In addition, our communications team is working to increase our accessibility of our external website, and so that we are on track for the 2026 standards and implementation, making sure that documents and contracts that are being proposed and adopted are accessible to our community is important, and by incorporating DocuSign as part of our process for council business, it will help increase our accessibility on our website. Upgrades to Wi-Fi here at the community center and Wi-Fi upgrades at City Hall are important. Anyone knows that in a building with cinder blocks, it is definitely a challenge. And we're excited to be able to offer those upgrades not only to our departments and personnel, but also to public for use. We also are doing a better job of integrating GIS information technology. It makes our departments more streamlined to better manage our data, analyze, communicate, and guide decision making. We have a need for upgrading and some of our outdated and unsupported technology. Our City Hall is over 20 years old, and we have a need to upgrade our camera systems and door badge access for security, and we have definitely got our money's worth in the last 20 years. Opportunities to continue to look at cybersecurity through assessments, improve our security here in the city, and the need to upgrade to Windows 11 as Windows 10 will no longer be supported, are expensive but important investments. Our fiber optic system is in need of our connections being repaired, but it will also provide the opportunity for a growth from 1 gigs to 10 gigs in use. And with moving more and more software to cloud platforms, replacing our desktop CPU workstations to laptops and docking stations allows our personnel to be more versatile. When it comes to road infrastructure, we appreciate the commitment of our community to 20 years of millage support for our local roads. That allows us to plan and prepare further out for projects. And this year, this investment to road funding looks like close to $17 million. These road and infrastructure improvement projects include Hayes Road, Sherwood, Martin, Cunningham, Simon, Audrey, Haverhill. I'm sorry if that means there's going to be construction barrels for the foreseeable future, but plan ahead. Funding also includes large pavement asphalt programs, non-motorized sidewalk and ramp improvements, block grant street improvements, and city parking lot improvements include a badly needed repair here at Warren Community Center. The parking lot at the community center will run roughly $4 million. So this is a significant investment that helps sustain this building accessibility for recreation. Let's talk about water and sewer rates. Transparency is essential when coming to a community to explain changes in pay rates for services. We've seen that failing to adequately fund infrastructure is what results in community catastrophes like Flint. Water and sewer rates are a user-based fee structure. Simply said, in Warren, we pay for the water we use. I come to our community with a rate increase of 5.78%. This is almost 2% less than last year. Our drinking water supplier, Great Lakes Water Authority, leveraged a cost increase. We see increased capital infrastructure expenditures, administrative fees, and operational costs. Wastewater treatment anti-pollution improvements, state-mandated anti-flooding improvements are part of those increased expenditures. And to maximize efficiencies, our water department works together with engineering in order to continuously maintain thousands of miles of water and sewer mains. By coordinating water and sewer replacements at the same time as road repairs, Warren is getting the most for our money. Our engineering department has also planned and proposed $8.6 million in water main and sewer replacement projects. You'll see a lot of overlap. Sherwood, Haverhill, Martin Road, Curry, Cunningham, Audrey, Simon, plus another $1 million in sewer repairs and linings that will help the pipes that we have last longer. We had a big celebration this year as we were able to put into work our 22 million gallon detention basin at Stevens Road. And this allows our wastewater treatment plant to actively manage when we are inundated with weather occurrences exceed what our system was built out for. And so this was a 3-phase process, roughly 15 years in the making, including the 9-mile pump station, some much needed water main repairs there, as well as building out this infrastructure. And it's very, we'll have the opportunity for the community to get a little closer look, but now that we've put it to use, it is closed to public, but we have some incredible footage if you want to see what it took to put this into action. And this is state of the art. Warren is leading on this. And it definitely helped manage this last rain occurrence. And I know that wastewater was very proud to see all the work had good outcomes. And wastewater treatment is important. Nobody asks what happens after you flush your toilet, but it is important that that infrastructure is there. And our wastewater treatment plant is in need of a lot of investment and repair, maintenance, replacing equipment, updating equipment to the tune of approximately $83.5 million. As part of critical infrastructure inventory that was completed several years ago, Warren's incinerator infrastructure was identified as critical infrastructure approaching its end of its life. That means planning within 5 years. And since I took office in November 2023, our incinerator has had to be taken offline 3 times for repairs. During these repairs, we had to make arrangements for alternatives for disposal. With the forethought and planning, the leadership at our wastewater treatment plant began researching and preparing to find a suitable replacement. It was no easy task. But they discovered state-of-the-art, next-generation incineration technology that will improve upon our already excellent air quality, recycle the heat energy used during the drying and incineration process, and have the potential to prove the destruction of low levels of PFAS in our wastewater. With this technology, Warren will be on the cutting edge, knowing that replacing roughly 60 years old facility is going to be expensive endeavor. Warren was able to begin funding what comes next as part of last year's water and sewage rate increase. And in 2023, the city of Warren began working with our state legislative delegation to secure a low-interest Department of Environmental, Great Lakes, and Energy State Revolving Fund loan. This would make our infrastructure investment all the more affordable. Twice the city applied to EGLE for funding, and twice our funding for our proposed infrastructure was cut from the final funding list. However, last year, working closely with State Representative Donovan McKinney, the wastewater treatment plant sanitary engineer, Donna Dorodesky, and myself testified before the State Appropriations Subcommittee on Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy. This testimony allowed us the opportunity to make the case for next-gen incinerator technology. And in October, Warren received our air quality permits that allow this project to move forward. In November, Warren was notified that we were in fact selected to borrow almost $75 million, financed as low as 2% interest rate. And not only that will help for long-term savings, nearly $10 million of those dollars will be in forgivable loans. So that helps manage that investment considerably. And with that, I want to thank you for participating in tonight's executive budget proposal presentation. My expectation is that Warren's local government will be responsible stewards of our tax dollars. Being here for this presentation creates a better understanding of our services local government provides. A deeper look into the foundational functions of departments, whether they be mundane daily tasks or mammoth landmark investments. This opportunity creates greater awareness of the costs, expenses, and efficiencies involved in providing outstanding level of care to our Warren residents. Tonight's budget proposal presentation will be available online today and every day, and accounting for how your tax dollars are being utilized to serve our community are public and available for review by residents. The city budgets are published on the city website, and a snapshot is provided of Warren's revenue and expenditures in our city calendar each year. I come before not only City Council, but you, our residents, to provide an accounting for how your hard-earned tax dollars are spent with the expectation of earning your trust, confidence, and support in your local government. Citizenship goes beyond casting a vote at a ballot box. Democracy demands actively holding elected officials accountable by participating. The next step in setting the City of Warren's fiscal budget for 2026 is City Council's budget hearings. Well, I've spent hours reviewing revenue sources and budget requests from departments, along with our city controller and budget director. In order to be fiscally responsible, I have had to make difficult decisions for prioritizing purchases and looking for additional or alternative funding sources for some expenditures. Providing City Council with a balanced budget requires holding off on some investments until the future, as well as deciding where to make cuts. I have every confidence that the proposed fiscal budget would provide the personnel, equipment, and facilities essential to operate our city for the next fiscal year. I recognize that elected executive who answers to residents for delivering high-quality services that they come to expect from the City of Warren. I also realize that it is City Council and not the mayor who holds the power of the purse. City Council is responsible for setting and adopting the city budget for fiscal year 2026. And so as part of the next step in the process, City Council will hold budget hearings on the 26th, 28th, and as needed, the 29th. Myself, along with department heads, will be meeting with City Council to answer questions, provide explanations for how this proposed budget serves our community. I encourage residents to follow along with this year's budget process by attending upcoming budget hearings that are also open to the public. City Council provides a more detailed schedule of times and locations and opportunities for citizen comments as part of public hearings. You have the opportunity to weigh in along the way on how you want to see your tax dollars used and the value of services provided by the city. In addition, the focus of my next community check-in in April on the 24th will be a deeper dive into community questions, concerns, wonderings, and curiosities regarding city budgets. So please join me at 6:30 at Civic Center South at the Tifa Conference Room, accessed through Burnett Branch Library. And tonight I have one more appeal for residents to sign up for Warren's Community Alert Network. If you've encountered new and interesting information about the City of Warren in tonight's presentation and you want to follow along to know more, if you have learned about programs and events happening in our community and you want to follow more closely, if tonight's information has inspired you to take a more active role in civic engagement, like a commission appointment, if you have not already registered online with the city to receive selective notifications from our Community Alert Network, I encourage you to take this opportunity tonight to sign up. This is your chance to be even better informed. Thank you for your time this evening, and I look forward to hearing from you. Please join me for some refreshments in the hall. Thank you, and have a good night.